The laughter started before I even saw her, and somehow I knew it was about me. It echoed across the office floor like a quiet storm, subtle enough to pretend it wasn't cruel, loud enough to make my chest tighten. I remember standing there in the middle of a bright Monday morning, sunlight pouring through glass windows, coffee still warm in my hand, when my coworkers nudged me toward the break room with those smirks they thought I didn't notice. That was the moment everything shifted, though I didn't know it yet. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected connections, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Heartfelt Stories. You never know whose story might change your perspective today. I had always been the quiet one at work, the kind of person people overlooked unless they needed something fixed or explained. My name is Ayan Mirza, and for years I had mastered the art of blending into the background. It wasn't that I didn't want to connect with people. It was just easier not to try. Rejection, even in small doses, has a way of settling into your bones. So when my coworkers suddenly decided to set me up, it felt less like kindness and more like entertainment for them. They framed it as a blind date during lunch, something lighthearted to get me out of my shell. But there was something off in the way they avoided eye contact, in the way their laughter lingered just a little too long. When I stepped into the break room, I saw her sitting by the window. She was calm, almost untouched by the energy in the room. Her name, I would later learn, was Zara Qureshi. She had soft brown eyes that seemed to observe everything without judgment, and her posture carried a quiet strength. Sunlight fell across her face, and for a moment, the world outside, the honking cars, the chatter, the office noise, faded into something distant. Then I noticed something else. She didn't look up when I approached. Not because she was ignoring me, but because she hadn't heard me. One of my coworkers leaned in behind me and whispered, barely containing a laugh, that she was deaf. The word landed heavy in the air, followed by muffled snickers from the doorway. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a setup. It was a joke. I was the punchline, and so was she. My throat went dry, and for a split second, I considered walking away. It would have been easy. No confrontation, no embarrassment, no awkwardness. Just turn around and pretend it never happened. But then she looked up, and when her eyes met mine, something inside me shifted. There was no mockery there, no hidden agenda, just curiosity and a quiet openness. It felt wrong to walk away from that. So instead, I sat down. At first, the silence between us was thick and uncomfortable. I could feel the weight of eyes watching from outside the room, waiting for something awkward or funny to happen. My hands felt useless, my words trapped in a world she couldn't hear. And then, almost instinctively, I raised my hand. I hadn't used sign language in years, not since my childhood, when my younger cousin lost her hearing after an illness. Back then, I had learned just enough to communicate with her. Simple phrases, broken sentences, imperfect gestures. It had faded over time, buried under the noise of life. But now, sitting across from Zara, it came back in fragments. Slowly, awkwardly, I signed a simple greeting. Her eyes widened. It wasn't a dramatic reaction, not something exaggerated, but it was real. It was a kind of surprise that softens into something warmer, something human. She responded almost immediately, her hands moving with a grace and confidence I could never match. And just like that, the room disappeared. We began to communicate. Not perfectly, not fluently, but honestly. I stumbled through signs, sometimes pausing to think, sometimes getting it wrong. And every time I did, she smiled, not out of pity but encouragement. The laughter outside faded. The joke lost its meaning, because what they had intended as humiliation was turning into something else entirely. As the days passed, lunch became our time. Every afternoon, we met by that same window, sunlight marking the passage of hours as we shared pieces of our lives. She told me about her world, how she experienced silence not as emptiness, but as a different kind of presence, how she noticed things others didn't, the way people's expressions change mid-sentence, the rhythm of movement, the quiet beauty of small moments. And in return, I told her about mine, about the loneliness I had carried for years, hidden beneath routines and responsibilities, about how I had grown used to being invisible, to being the person no one really saw. With her, That invisibility faded, but it wasn't easy. Outside our little bubble, the world remained the same. My co-workers didn't stop completely, but their laughter turned quieter, more uncertain. Maybe they didn't expect me to keep showing up. Maybe they didn't expect the joke to outgrow them. There were moments of doubt, too. Moments when I felt inadequate, when I struggled to express something meaningful and ended up frustrated with my own limitations. Communication, something most people take for granted, became a daily challenge. But Zara never made it feel like a burden. Instead, she made it feel like effort was enough. One afternoon, during a particularly bright day when the sky seemed endless, she taught me a new sign. It wasn't a word I had expected. It meant seen. She explained it through gestures and expressions, showing how it wasn't just about looking at someone, but truly understanding them, recognizing their presence, their struggles, their worth. And in that moment, I realized something that hit deeper than anything else. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not judged, not overlooked, not used for someone else's amusement, but genuinely understood. That realization changed everything. I started learning more seriously, practicing sign language every night, replaying our conversations in my mind, wanting to be better, not just for her, but for myself. Growth stopped feeling like a chore and started feeling like purpose. And slowly, the dynamic at work began to shift. The same people who had laughed now watched in silence. Some looked uncomfortable, others curious. A few even approached me, asking hesitant questions about sign language, about Zara, about things they had never cared to understand before. It wasn't a dramatic transformation, but it was something. Change rarely announces itself loudly. Sometimes, it begins in quiet corners, in small acts of defiance against cruelty. Weeks turned into months. What started as a cruel joke had become the most meaningful connection of my life. And then, one day, Zara did something that left me speechless. She handed me a small notebook. Inside, written in careful handwriting, were words she wanted me to hear, not through signs, but through language I understood completely. She wrote about how that first day had felt for her, how she had walked into that room aware of the stares, aware of being different, prepared for discomfort. But then I had sat down, and I had tried. She wrote that effort, even imperfect, had meant more than perfection ever could. By the time I reached the last page, my vision had blurred, because the final line read simply, "You didn't laugh." If this story is touching your heart even a little, take a moment to comment, and share it. You never know who needs to hear this reminder today. That day, standing by the same window where it all began, I realized something profound. Kindness isn't always grand or dramatic. Sometimes, it's as simple as staying when it's easier to leave. As simple as trying when it's easier to give up. As simple as seeing someone. Before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Comment, "Kindness wins," if you believe small actions can change someone's life. Because they can. They changed mine. The laughter that once filled that office didn't disappear entirely, but it lost its power over me. It became background noise to something far more meaningful, a connection built not on convenience, but on understanding. And in the end, the joke wasn't on me. It was on everyone who underestimated what a single moment of kindness could become. Because sometimes, the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most unforgettable stories.